Okay, hopefully we're back and you guys can hear me. I have no way of checking. Hey Kurt?
Yeah.
Can you go on YouTube Live to see if you can hear me? Because I have no way of checking now. Can you hear me? Yeah?
Where am I looking?
Woodland Hills Camera and Telescope.
Facebook?
YouTube. Hello, one person. I don't know if you can hear me. I have no idea how I'm going to find out. All messages are visible. Can you hear me? Hello, hello, hello. Me? I have no idea if you can hear me. I'm trying to confirm through the powers that be over there. Hopefully I'm not talking to myself or I'm just a mime. A really good mime. Can you hear me at all, Kurt?
Yeah, fine, you get it.
Well, it says I'm live. Say something.
I hear you.
So you can hear me now?
Yeah.
Is it live?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, geez. I can hear myself over there. That's scary. Okay, let's start again, because why not?
You're right.
So, what are we talking about? We're talking about binoculars. You're probably thinking, why binoculars? It's better than technology, I'll tell you that much. Obviously, we can't even do a live stream and get the audio working, but it is what it is. So, we're going to talk about binoculars. I basically have with me some nice binoculars here. You can kind of see back there. That's where we have the nicer ones. This particular one is a pair of Zeiss. We have the Leica. That's only if you like her, that is. And of course, Swarovski, the ever popular. So I'm going to go through a little bit more about these and kind of just give you a quick rundown on them and the functionalities behind them. And it's interesting because people kind of disregard binoculars a lot of the times for astronomy purposes, which is kind of strange because they actually work incredibly well. One of the things that I like to look at for using binoculars is the double cluster near Cassiopeia. It actually works brilliantly. I mean, you can literally see the two fuzzy patches, and then depending on the size that you have and the magnification, you see this like peppering of stars that are just, you know, everywhere. And you know, that's just one cluster, but to see two side by side is just pretty awesome, actually. The reason why I picked these particular binoculars from a high-end standpoint, I guess, is because these are some of the things that you need to look for when you're shopping for binoculars. There are certain things to keep an eye out for. Some that are better, some are bad, some you should just outright stay away from altogether. So I'm going to go through some of those features, I guess. So first things first that you need to look at is the type of prism a pair of binoculars have. Some of them just don't have them. I mean, these particular ones in this case is actually a straight through. I mean, it just works just like a lens would, because you can kind of line up and see It's kind of scary. I don't think you really want to see a close-up of me, but you kind of get the idea. It does work. So when you're looking at binoculars with prisms inside them, there's two different major types. There's back four and there's Poro prisms. There are good example and bad examples of these types of prisms, especially when it comes down to back four. You do want to try and get something that's relatively good. The reflectivity behind the back four prisms is not super critical. It's more about the actual quality behind them, because at the end of the day, it's just like a diagonal on your telescope. You can say that you have a 99% reflectivity on a diagonal, but it doesn't necessarily give you the good performance. Like, say, if you've got a teleview which has a slight gold finish to it and it's more like 86% reflectivity, but if you were to compare the two, you would swear blind that the teleview one was actually far more superior, which, you know, is just goes to show it isn't a numbers game. It's definitely more of a quality issue here, which basically brings me to why I am looking at these types of binoculars. You know, I have a preference, so we're going to go through them, in my mind at least anyway, in order of what is, you know, the top of the line to the bottom, I guess, but still remaining in the high-end market. So I would say from the bottom, we'll go from the bottom to the top. So let's just start with the Zeiss. Zeiss has all different sets of binoculars. Most currently is the Terra series. Now the good thing about Zeiss is they only do apochromatic binoculars. You don't find achromats generally with their stuff. That's not what they're about. They have a level of quality that they maintain, and you know, that's the important thing with that design. Again, you're using Zeiss optics here. You know, says so right there, big thing that says Zeiss. I would put this at the bottom of the pile in terms of optical quality. Next in line is the Leica. They do all sorts of different types of this. This particular one is the Ultravid, and at the top of the list is the Swarovskis. These are very popular. In fact, when it comes down to binoculars, I tend to sell way more of these than I do any other type of binocular, just purely because the image quality, the clarity you get from them is just phenomenal. It is just staggering. And you get these flappy parts to them here. Hello, Dan. Dan you can't see Dan, he's hiding, he's camera shy or something like that. So let's go through some of the features. So let's start off with the most important part. He's probably going to pass the camera now. No, he's not. Start off with the most important feature, the diopter. Diopter looks like this, okay? And what this allows you to do is you can focus each eye individually, because one of the things that I always do when I'm looking for binoculars is I need to make sure that they're comfortable to view through. So the actual amount of tilt that they have, or the angle, so they're comfortably fitting over your eye. The idea here is you need to be able to move them in such a way where they converge to create a complete image, because the idea here is you kind of want that 3D effect. Well, the problem here is everybody's facial structure is completely different. Some people's eyes are wider apart, and some people's are closer together, and so forth and so on. And the idea here is you need to make sure that by adjusting the positioning, when you're looking through the binoculars, you need to be able to converge the image to form one three-dimensional image. The other part is the focus. You know, generally speaking, all the focuses tend to be in the center, and all it does is it just moves the eyepieces up and down within the body of the actual system to be able to achieve focus. There is nothing you cannot actually reach focus on with these binoculars. It's just the way they work. They all have eye cups or eye guards that are adjustable depending on if you wear eyeglasses or not. 9 times out of 10, I take my glasses off. It's just more comfortable for me in that fashion. These ones, like I said, these are the Zeiss. Not as popular in comparison to other brands, but they are still pretty good quality binoculars. So second in my list is the Leica. Now, if you're familiar with Leica cameras, The optics on the Leica glass and things like that is just absolutely phenomenal. And what they did was they ported across the same design and the same optical quality behind them. One of the things, again, to look out for is to be able to close them down and be able to converge with them. Problem for me with the Leica binoculars is for my facial structure, it's a little harder to use. I have to use them without my glasses, and I have to be able to adjust them to be able to converge. Now, not all binoculars are going to be suitable, regardless of their high end or low end, for your particular face. In Leica's particular case, I actually struggle to converge them, so this is why I don't tend to use them all that often. I end up just like closing one eye and just using them, you know, with one eye. One of the things here is, though, their choice of diopter design is different. It is not like the standard one where you would turn the eyepiece. You actually have to pull this part out. So you'll see there's a red ring that pulls out, and as you turn, that adjusts the individual diopter. Normally speaking, diopters are always the right eye, because most people are right eye dominant, which is why they do that. And again, standard focus in the center is all around the general design for binoculars. Very few have any other weird design. Now we go over to Swarovski. I think Swarovski, in my opinion, is the absolute pinnacle when it comes down to binoculars. I sell so many of these. I mean, it's just unreal. It's just the design, the quality behind them. And one thing that I like about their system is their diopter, once again you pull up the middle, is as you turn it, you feel a clicking sensation. And that clicking sensation is what allows me to be able to adjust and change the focus. And what I like to do is, I don't want to overshoot, so I can count the clicks and find out what's good and what's not good. And then once I find what I got it, lock it in place, and then I'm good to go. So again, as you pull this out, you can see they click, as opposed to the Leica ones, which have no click, but they just free move, which, you know, can tend to lead to overshooting when you're trying to mess around with the diopter. When you're doing astronomy, it's kind of somewhat difficult to be able to get that right, because what tends to happen here is you overshoot so easily because you're just focusing on a tiny pinpoint of light, and it's incredibly hard. And having that clicking just helps. You know, you can count how many clicks and go, oh gosh, that looks terrible, go back about, you know, 2 or 3 more clicks, and that's basically what that gives you essentially. Other major design features that is featured on all of the binoculars that they have is the rubberized coating. Personally, I like the Swarovski ones. You feel it. There's a lot of, it feels like gel almost, like a rubberized gel. Comfortable to grip. They thought about the ergonomics. They have these parts here where your thumb tends to go, so it's easy to hold on to, and it's like almost natural looking when you're holding on to them. And Leica has something very, very similar with theirs, but with the Zeiss, they tend to have nothing. It's just, you just grab a hold of them and that's it, and there's no level of comfort, and your thumb, you know, gets very, very tired very, very quickly, so you can get fatigued with using these suckers a lot. One of the other things that I also look out for is the type of glass, the amount of false color, the chromatic aberration, as you would say. That to me is like a major critical part for this. Generally speaking, I do not like using binoculars that are achromats. I don't like to see that purple greenish fringe, and in some cases some binoculars are worse than others. Now, you can get high quality achromats that do perform incredibly well, but the false color can be distracting, especially when you're looking at something like a star cluster. And how that manifests itself is when you're looking at the stars, because it's a very high contrast background, as you're kind of like shaking or just wobbling around, you kind of see after images of like a purple and a greenish fringe, for lack of a better description. And in the stars case, you kind of see like more stars than you're really supposed to. and that can get very, very distracting very, very quickly. So if you were looking at something like the moon, you'll end up seeing that on the edges of the moon, you'll see a purple and a green fringe. Apochromatic ED optics in general do not really have that kind of a problem. They do have chromatic aberration of some description or fringing. In this particular case, it's blue and it's yellow. How you tell the difference, or how you tell how good something is how well does it correct. The idea here is I do not want to see too much fringing. So the idea here is as I'm looking out terrestrially, I like to look at street signs to check how good or bad these are. And the idea here is I'm looking at the lettering between the black and the white, and I'm seeing how much blue and yellow fringing occurs, if any. And the idea here is I don't want any fringing to occur. So with something like the Swarovskis, for example, if I'm looking through them and I'm looking through a high contrast item, and there's a sign across the way, I can read the text, but more importantly, I don't see that chromatic aberration that you would get from lesser quality optics or glass in this case. All binoculars, doesn't matter how good or bad they are all coated with something. It's a huge misconception to have coatings that have to have a color. In fact, some of the best coatings on the planet have no color. The idea here is you don't want to have a tinted look to them. So if you look at some of the telescopes out there, you'll see that they might have a greenish tint to them, a purple or a blue or whatever the case may be. The reason why they do that kind of coloring is so as a customer, when I'm looking at something and it says it comes with these coatings, I want to be able to see them. Well, the idea here is you don't want to see them, so a lot of the times you're looking for clear coating. Zeiss, on the other hand, are probably by far and wide the champions when it comes down to coatings. That's what basically puts them in that upper echelon in terms of all their optics. But you'll notice that they have a slightly pinkish purpley tinge to them when you hold them up against the light. But in reality, when you look through these, you do not get any of that weird looking color that can leak through from these dyes that they put into these coatings, and it gives you some of the clearest color corrected views, for lack of a better description. Leica, on the other hand, they opted for a greenish tint. In fact, you can just about see it occurring if I hit the angle right. So here is the other one. You can see the blatant differences in the coloring. And then if you look at the Swarovskis, this is actually pinkish red, I think. Yeah, there you go. It's a pinkish reddish color. You can definitely pick out the differences. Now, the Swarovskis are multi-coated. That's why you're seeing both blue and red at the same time. One on one side, the other is on the other side. The different coatings or the properties of the different coatings allow the light to pass through without it reflecting back and causing all sorts of weird and wonderful problems. Kind of like with a camera lens, I guess. You know, you get a lot of lens flares and things like that. You kind of want to avoid that type of scenario. What other things, features can we talk about? I think the obvious things here are the camera straps. The straps that you put these on. They're pretty much standard. Swarovski has a slight difference. You know, they have it so you have to put these parts on. They don't come like a part by standard. So as you can see, you know, there's this is a hook thing. Inside of the actual box, you get these parts that this part comes off, and then you hook those onto. It can be a little bit annoying, but I'm one of these people, I can't stand straps. You know, the first thing I do is take them off of my camera because it's just irritating. You know, I'm not that type of person that's just going to wildly run around and drop everything. And quite honestly, I'm not going to go climbing up on a mountain and then go look at my binoculars. You know, I'll probably fall off, no my luck. So those are the big things that I tend to look for. More so the sharpness, the chromatic aberration, that kind of stuff. All of that to me affects the quality of all of these binoculars. But yeah, so these are some of the binoculars that we have. If you have any more questions, feel free to call us. Our number is 888-427-8766. You can also email us at orderinfo@telescopes.net. And of course, you can always come to my store and just basically harass us or play around with these. You know, we've got these out there. You know, you can check them out to your heart's desire. and make a good educated decision on which ones you like. But again, these are some of the binoculars we have on offer, and as you can see from the shelf behind me over there to the left or to the right, depending on which way around this is flipped, we've got the biggest selection you could ever imagine. Plus we've got other binoculars, you know, specific for astronomy. I mean, you can get some 100mm front objectives, you know, you can suck up all the light in the universe and be done with it. So that is a quick look into some of our high-end binoculars. Sorry for the sound problems we had earlier. Hopefully you're hearing me now. I had to switch to my phone, so you know. Well, this is a store, so look, you can check it out. There's our store. Hi, Steve.
Hi.
And that's Max in the background, and this is our store, and Dave's over there somewhere, and Farah's around here somewhere. You can just about see her right there, hiding. And that's really about it. So we'll see you on the next one. Stay tuned.